Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Greg Buckley here for Shop Soup, and we've got another episode with a fantastic shop owner, part of the Auto Service Leaders cover. I think it was one episode or one edition earlier, and he has got a great story. So I'm really happy to get to meet Andrew and his story. So everybody, welcome Andrew Dominguez from it's DJX
DTX, DTX
Okay.
Automotive, and Asher Auto Care.
And Asher Auto Care, 2 locations. So welcome, Andrew. Your story is incredible. You started at such a young age with just a lot of aspirations to move up. You had this vision, you had everything, and kind of things went haywire. But how did you, again, tell your story about how you actually started? Because it really is interesting. And I know that a lot of people will go through what you did, but you really took it by the bull by the horns and went after it all.
Yeah. So I got in the industry in 2015. My first job in the auto repair side of things was I was a loop tech at a Chevy dealership when I was in college. And so I kind of walked in and I needed a job, and they hired me on the spot, which I'm not sure what it was. I think it was my charm or something.
Yeah, there you go.
So so that was kind of the same thing. I started changing oil. It was a small Chevy dealership out in eastern New Mexico, and it was okay. It was a job. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really understand the industry. Now looking back, is I had no respect for the industry. I had no respect for the craft of it. It was just a job to me. I didn't really understand the importance of it, even at the loop tech level, like some of the things. And then it also taught me, looking back, is the lack thereof training, lack thereof processes, which I mean, it could have ended badly, some of the stuff they were letting me do or having me do and so forth. So I did that, but I kept seeing, I'm like, man, the front counter, I saw the service manager and the service advisor. I'm like, man, these guys are talking to customers. They're clean. They look like they're making way more money than we are back here. I was like, that's what I want to do. So I ended up quitting that job, and I had I started working some construction. I'm still trying to find my way. I had quit school at the time, and I was still living in the college town I was at. And I was just trying to figure out what path, what direction I was, felt compelled to go. And my mom actually got in a car wreck, and about a week later, she wasn't feeling good, and so I drove home, and she ended up having a brain bleed and had to have brain surgery. So I moved back home, take care of her on that. She's definitely recovered. She's healthy and fine, thank
Good,
God.
good.
But I needed a job. I was back in my hometown, in southern New Mexico, and I went to a Ford dealership there, and went in for looking for a job, and they gave me a job as a service advisor. And I didn't even know what they did, or really like the position of it. And it's like, hey, build this estimate, call this customer, and this is what you do. I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of figured it out. Kind of one of those, just like do it, you know, figure out my own, take some direction, ask questions when I need to. But I kind of like that stuff. Um, so I did that, and I started seeing success with it. I was like, man, I really like this, and the pay was good, and that was my first taste to like commission based pay, and
Right.
I loved it because it was like I got to put in what I put in, I got out. So if I did the things, I was seeing it reflected in either my customer experience and or in my paycheck, which I mean pretty much that's all I cared about at the time. I
Right.
was
Well, you
18
had
years
to.
old. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
18 or 19 years old. Can't remember.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so that was really fun. So I did that, and quickly, I quickly moved up. Just not only in sales, but just understanding it in the technician game of, okay, these guys are flat rate. They don't get paid for this. Warranty times are less. Okay, how do I make these guys like me to fix my cars? But how do I sell for them? So now they're relying on me, and I like that pressure. Is these technicians are relying on this front counter to sell so they can get their hours, and just the key to key, like I felt like I was in control, and I really liked that.
So you really thrived in being accountable and responsible for others.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the thing. It's
Hmm.
like it's on me. Like I'm gonna take it. Like you give me you give me stack the deck of cards against me, and say, hey, try to figure this out, kind of deal. And it's like, okay, like that to me, that's a challenge. Because what's the worst
So
thing
you're
that can happen?
competitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can tell
Yeah.
that right away. Yeah.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
So I did that for 6 months at that small dealership, and I was like, I was making good money, and I was like, okay. My mom, she recovered, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do next? I wanted to get out of that town, my hometown. I knew there was something. So my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, let's move to Texas, and I was like, okay. She was living in Oregon, and I was like, all right, well, let's go. My
It's
sister was
rock and
living
roll,
out in
man. Let's
Dallas.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister was living out in Dallas, um, going to school. And so I'd only been to Dallas one time before for a wedding. And I sent out my resume and I applied to a bunch of Ford dealerships in Dallas. And I lined up like 2 or 3 interviews at different Ford dealerships. Um, and I was like, man, I'm going to go the first one. The first one that offers me a job, I'm going to take it. Like, I don't even care. Like, I don't even know what questions to ask. Like, just give me a job. So luckily, I went to the first one I went to was in Dallas, and Dallas proper, and it was a family owned, wasn't a big chain, corporate owned store. And I got there, and it was just I went from a 6 technician, 2 advisor, small country dealership to a 13 advisor, 40 technician, in Dallas proper. It was just,
Like a mega dealer.
oh yeah, it was just
Yeah.
nuts. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so then that was kind of one of those things. It was another one of those, hey, okay, great. Okay, how do we do this? And what you did at a small dealership versus you did at a big dealership. And I remember like the first day or two, like we're using Reynolds and Reynolds. I was using ADP at the other dealership. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, how do we use this? I'm like, oh, just plug in, make a ticket. I'm like, okay, well, how does this work? So yeah, it just kind of threw me out to the wolves, and I was like, all right, I'll figure it
Yeah.
out. So it was probably a day or two in. I'm like,
It's crazy.
like, this is easy. All I got to do is be better than the next guy. Like
Yeah.
that's how I saw it. And the whole concept of, on the independent world is, saying yes is, being accessible to the customer, bringing them in now. I've always had that adaptation because I was always the new guy. I was always the young guy on the totem pole. I didn't have that customer base that at dealerships, the advisor's been there, they build up. And so I wanted every customer. I wanted every oil change, they called in, that's what I was doing. So I was just running around writing the most tickets, doing all the things. And I quickly climbed, I think with probably 2 months being there, I became the top service advisor at that dealership.
That's what's
And
crazy. Now, how old were you when all of this? What's your timelines on age? Because you're fairly young, right?
yes. So
Okay.
I graduated high school a year early. So I went to college when I was 17. I did a year there. Yeah, because I turned 18. Yeah, I turned 18. Then I quit. Would have been the start of my second semester. Mom got in the, so I was 18, worked at the dealership. Oh, I turned 19. So I started at the Ford dealership in March of 2015. And I left and started at the big dealership in Dallas in October of 15. I was 19. And I remember I grew out a goatee, so I looked older. I had to do that because like customers are not liking the baby face. And
Yeah,
yes,
I
I
was to
was
say
young.
they like the baby face. They couldn't trust you enough to say, well, who's this
That
young
that's
kid, right?
exactly what it was. And even just like technicians to, other colleagues and stuff, because it was predominantly you don't really hire at that level, an 18, 19-year-old guy with no experience out of school, not even out of school, just never had much experience.
They think you'd have the chops and the experience, and they didn't trust you enough to say, hey, can you get this ticket done for me?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just had to work hard. I just had to prove to them, which I like that. So yeah, I was 19. I think I lied to everyone for the longest time. I mean, everyone thought I was 22, 23. Like I kind of fluffed my age a little bit to even my colleagues and things like that, just to kind of have some of that respect that I had to, try to earn. But it was like age is a barrier, which is a big pivotal part to my story. Is so yeah, so I'm doing that, and like I said, I was 19, 20 years old, no bills, paid off cars, living in an apartment, and I'm making 100, 130 grand a year. Like
You're
it
fat
was
and
just
happy.
like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
man.
moving fast. And
Yeah,
it's
you're
like,
rolling.
It was great, getting paid weekly, controlling, like knowing, like, figured out how to play the game with it. But the biggest thing for me was it was fun and it was challenging and it was stressful, a lot of hours, but I didn't have a family back then. And, it, but it was also one of those, it's like, all right, how can I do more? And at the dealership level, and I'm sure it's the biggest problem with it is that there is, there's no incentive to really have an accountability on anything. Like it's just, there's so many loopholes and there's just little things. And, I kept, it was just like things that are just little issues here. Like, hey, we can fix this. Like, how do we do this? Like, why are we doing this? Like, we were a multi-million dollar company. Why don't we have this? Like, why is 7 technicians pushing in a car? Why don't we have a car pusher? Like just things like that, just that were annoying seeing. And it was just like, okay. And then you hit that cap. Like I hit my cap of what I can do. Like there was not physically possible to sell anything more to do within the week and what I was trying to do. And once I had to start paying people to work my Saturdays, that's when I knew like I was paying $300-400 to another advisor just to come in and work my Saturday because like I just didn't want
Wow.
to do it anymore.
Yeah. How about
Um,
that?
and so it was kind of like I had a plan. Initially, it was a 2-year plan. Like I'm gonna come in, work for 2 years, make as much money as I can, and then I'm gonna get out and do, what I think maybe I'll find what I want to do. And I knew it was something in sales. I knew it was something commission based. I didn't want to be on anyone's time. I didn't like the hourly stuff. I didn't like to do the busy work, pretending to be busy. Um, when the boss walked around because I was on the clock, kind of I wanted that self accountability. Like if I didn't want to do anything that day, I didn't. It my paycheck reflected. So that was the incentive for me. It was like, okay, if I do stuff today, I'm gonna get rewarded at the end of the day. And that's the huge thing, which we'll tie later on into this is like, the commission base and the positives of it, for it.
Yeah, I want to
Uh
hear about that because to me, what I'm listening to is I'm hearing a young man in 2015 who really had something built inside of him that was the engine that drove you into the positions you are today.
oh yeah.
And it's very unique. I can tell you, there's not many individuals that have that so early and bring it to fruition like you have. So I'm going to keep the story going on, how you decided to say, you know what, like you're getting there, like enough's enough. Man, I got to make my own mark.
Yeah, make my mark. And so that was the kind of thing. It was kind of I started turning into. I was never a great employee. Looking back now, I thought I was good.
Join
So
the
I
crowd.
just, I just started being worse and worse. Kind of like, oh, I'm the best at what I do. I didn't have that ego of like, the prima donna. Like, oh, I can make the rules don't apply to me. I didn't have that. I was always a team player, but I was selfishly doing it to level up myself. And that was the thing. Like if there was a customer that was upset on the service drive, I wanted to help. I wanted the challenge. Can I diffuse this without being the manager, quote unquote, having the title or being that man? And so I just, inserted myself in all these situations because I liked it. I saw a different approach and, it's moving fast. I've always had the, move fast mentality. So it's like, why are we going to wait to make a decision? Like, let's just make it. And I've always had that. Let's
Yeah.
make that with, and so I'm telling guys that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're just like, dude, no, we can't do that. I'm like, what's the worst thing going to happen? They're going to fire us?
Yeah.
Like, and you tell that to someone, a young kid telling that to someone with a family and stuff like that, they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, screw it. We'll find another job,
Right.
it's that
So
simple,
I
so
think
that's,
I think the biggest thing is what we experience is we feel stymied. And when we can't, take our energy and our ideas and put them in play because someone says, no, you can't, or this isn't the way it's going to happen, we start to freeze up and then we start to lose interest and then we start to get sour. I mean, that's where I felt, even in my work experience, and it hasn't been with dealerships or other shops. It's just been with my family, with my dad. And I felt the same way is that if he wouldn't allow something to be implemented or we couldn't do something different, and yet I saw it and some other people would see it, then we had the issue. So, what you're telling everybody is, hey, man, I had this drive and we just weren't getting there.
yeah, you wouldn't get in there. And, and I had to take some humble steps back and say, okay, is this, do I know it all? or does this really make sense in the broader picture? Like, what does this look like? And I did a lot of comparisons, like, okay, do I want my life to look like this? Whether it was the service director, or something like that. Like, they were working long hours, yeah, they were making good money, or great money, even in essence of that. But it's like, there was so much stress and there was so much hands tied in the corporate world, essentially what it is in the dealership world, because they're all pretty much ran the same. I mean, I haven't seen one that's just extraordinary different, kind of deal. And so I was like, man, I don't really want that. They can't even really make decisions. Everything, if they can't make decisions at the service advisor level, like, how is anything gonna change? I was ranting one day, or right before that, I was like, you know what? I want to challenge myself more. We were getting paid off total revenue, top line revenue. And I said, okay, this can be manipulated easy. Just, you can sell something for $10,000 ticket, but have 5% gross on it. I'm still getting paid off the 10,000. So I went to the fixed op director and said, you know what? I want to be paid off gross profit. Give me a higher percentage of gross profit.
Yeah.
And I want that because my numbers are up. I've hit all my numbers on the top line sales. I'm hitting effective labor rate. I'm doing all these things. I want something more of a challenge, but have, bigger risk, but a bigger
Mm-hmm.
reward, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think they were taken back by that because they're like, they didn't get it. And they were supposed to change my pay plan, and I'm like, I'm only going to ask once, kind of deal. And
Right.
they ended up, it never got done. It was kind of like a test. Okay, is this going to get done?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of show, hey, I have some skin in the game. And I didn't truly understand gross profit back then. I don't think I really did. And so I was ranting one day to another service advisor, and he says, come here. And so he walked me to the end. He said, you see that name on the side of that building? He's like, until your name's on that side of the building, what you say is not going to matter. And
Great advice, and it's truth.
I looked at him, and I was like, and it just was like, you're right. So how do I do this? And then that was like, so that was like, like a September, October. I was like, you know what? I don't even know how it came about. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own Ford specialty store. Like, so what I know, what I'm good at, I have a lot of customers. If I stay in the area, all I got to do is do the things that they're not doing at the dealership and just be a little bit better. Um, for this, like the one-on-one. So I start talking to customers. And the thing about Dallas and here in the area we're at is, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, um, a lot of guys that I met, a lot of customers I met that just, saw something in it. And that's the thing is, as I saw, like, that was the big pivotal is these guys, the people that were successful, um, were the ones that were asking the questions like, hey, how does this work? Like, how does your job work? They were interested. And so I formed these relationships with these guys, um, that owned, construction companies to landscaping to just all sorts of random stuff. Um, and so, yeah, so I started asking them, like, why do you come here? Like, what do you look for? And their biggest thing was they had to, like, it's the only Ford dealership in Dallas. So, you get on the independent world, it had, I think the reputation is getting better, but it's had a bad reputation, throughout the whole, through our time. And I didn't truly understand the independent because I've never worked in one. Side of it, I didn't know that there can be, successfully ran,
Right.
good structure, good technicians kind of deal. I've always believed, the manufacturer should, and I still do that to a certain extent, for certain things it should go back to the dealer, and whether it's a car or a refrigerator or a TV,
Anything.
I kind of on
Yeah.
that. It's they do have the most equipped things, for it
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent.
Well, you
So
were doing your own customer survey in a sense, weren't you? I mean, you were just trying to get a
yeah,
feedback on like why people would come to you instead of any place else, and you found that okay that they enjoyed the quality of service, that you were the game in town, and you learned from all of that. Did you take away any business intelligence from those operators or the other small businesses to bring into your business?
yes. And what
Mm-hmm.
solidified like me making the next jump of like, okay, I'm gonna go do this was obviously you got to have a product, a service or product, and you got to have customers. The two pillars to business, right? um, and then be able to fulfill it. The third one is what I started hearing was these customers were coming to me. They wanted to
Right.
me, they trusted me. They wanted me to deal with their car and all those things. I mean, there was things I was doing stuff. I mean, I to this day, customers call me and say, "Hey Andrew, I'm looking for this truck. Can you find it for me, or what do you think about this?" And if it's a Ford inside and out, I'm like, "Yes, this is great. Let me do some blah 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 blah," and I'll send them to them, no matter how busy I am, whatever on that, because it's like that trust, that input. So there was no, and that's what really stuck with me is I did a big job on a customer's vehicle. I saw them. He's like, "Andrew," he's like, "I want you to know." He's like, "I wasn't going to tell you this because I didn't want you to feel bad." He's like, "I could have got this done at another dealership across town for about $6,000 cheaper, but I bought it from, but I wanted to go with you because I trust you." 6 grand.
Wow, that's a statement, dude. That's a
And
huge statement.
and it was like, so one, it was like, man, like this truly is it, backs up my theology of like, okay, people are buying from me, like, we're having that. And um and then I just ultimately felt bad because the level of service that I would give my customers wasn't the same level of service the guy next to me was giving. Wasn't, it
Mhm.
was not uniformed across that. And that's a leadership problem, that's a dealership problem. And that was never going to change. And so it's like, why does this customer, and I wasn't the greatest. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I was the best, but I knew what I would go above and beyond, and the next guy wouldn't. And I just, which wasn't fair to that customer at the end of the day. As a business, we should have uniformity. It should be no matter what, the customer's getting taken care of, and that's everyone's mission.
Absolutely, it comes down to the client. It really
Yeah,
does. Yeah,
it truly
that's the
is
end game. Yeah.
the end game. And that for me was like, that's what just angered me the most. Um, and so yeah, so that was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I had this. Had the concept. Went out to do the Ford only, and that was the thing was people buy from people, and that's where it truly I see and I saw the ripple effect of how many customers that followed me and the relationships I still have today, and just from big fleet companies that literally followed me to employees, customers, all that was okay. Hey, we're gonna get behind here. This is something, which then turned into a big stink. I mean, they tried to sue me. They banned me from the dealership that I left because I went
Really?
so close. I mean, it was a
Wow.
big. We made a big impact with it because it's never happened before. Where
Yeah.
if an employee leaves, you don't typically think about you're losing customers. You typically don't, unless, especially in this area, is that no one wants to drive further to a different store or things like that. But I stayed in the same area. I offered the same thing, but now they had the one-on-one. And what I found too, the day one I started opening up these customers,
Hmm.
the same customers I've been working with for 2, 3 years, the wall came down. The moment
Wow.
they stepped into my store, which we had a great relationship then, they were even more open. They wanted me to succeed. They wanted the little guy to win in this situation. And these
They
are
wanted the
business
fellow
owners.
small business owners,
Correct.
yes, and
Yes.
and
And
that kind of cohort that resonates within other small business owners. We all want the owner to succeed because we know the risks involved, and we appreciate that. So that was awesome, man. I mean, and you didn't have a non compete, right?
no, I had no non-compete. They started
Okay,
that
all right.
after I left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure
They
they did.
tried to get everyone with it, but it was a stink, and it was funny because it was like, why does it matter? Like it was just such a, and that was it came down to, like I said, the leadership side of it. Like they were just, it was such a immature. I mean, when I was telling these people the story, because I was trying to figure it out, like I'm getting cease and desist letters, like I'm getting all these things, and they were down the street. Like I was gonna buy parts from them, so I'm having to like figure out. Like I used to have this relationship connection, and now I'm just like cut off from it. I didn't expect it to blow up like that. So, and it was
That's
like kind
crazy,
of,
man. That's
and
nuts.
it was very childish and everything like that. So that I'm
Yeah,
talking to other people like that, they're like, "What? Like this is absurd." Like, and so
yeah,
I'm still trying to
sure.
figure out this business stuff as a loan. What you don't know what you don't know, and that was the biggest thing. I think the naiveness and the pure drive that I know I whatever it is, I will be okay, because that was my fallback plan is I know I can go to any Ford dealership, I know I can go to any dealership or any repair shop or anything in sales, and I'm gonna be just fine. I was so confident, and here it is. But it's like, how bad does it want to suck? Um, and it was just it was a things. There were a lot of mistakes made in the things, but I stuck to I'm gonna move fast. I'm gonna trust my gut. I'm gonna do it even if it doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll kill it. If it makes sense, great, I win. But let's just keep moving forward. And the chase of the money, we were everything's reflected okay on money. It's like, okay, security, that's people's nest egg. It's all these things. So there's so much emotions around money and the driver and all the things like that. For me was until I had a ton of money, and I didn't even know what a ton of money then. I think maybe two, three, four, $500,000 was a lot of money to me back then. Um, that's when it was like, okay, but other than that, until I got there, I'm just gonna keep spending and keep, living off the 20, 30 grand, my total life savings, to feel safe. But yeah, but because that was the thing. And I learned so much through that.
Well,
And
what was
just,
a question I have is, now? Are you still single or married at this time? This timeline, and
so I
how
was
was
still,
your family going around all of your gyrations and your upswing and everything that you're going through? I mean, personally, it's angst, but what about the people around you, your loved ones and stuff like that? Were they witnessing your commitment and everything like that?
yeah, I think so I was still dating my now wife, and we had been together since we were 14. So we were high school sweethearts. So she's been through every pivotal part of my life. Yeah, just
That's pretty
crazy.
good.
Yeah, even
So
now, like
she's
I'm
used
just
to you.
like, yeah, she is. And I think honestly, during that time, none of us really knew what I was doing. Like obviously I didn't know what I was doing, but like it was just
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, Andrew's starting to shop. Okay, cool. And then it's like I have all these things, and I'm one of those. I don't share a lot of things until I know it's going to happen. Like I don't like to put it out there and say it, and then I don't commit to it. I've always been that way. So like I kept everything. That's why I'm terrible with marketing. We'll get into that another thing.
Close to the vest in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, close to the events. I'm very transparent and open, but it's like, okay, let me see if this works first because I don't like to be a failure. One,
Yeah.
that's just, but yeah. So like I was doing all these things, and I started, I was asking other people for advice, and it's kind of one of those things like I didn't want to ask advice, and then they give me good advice, and I still did it the other way. I didn't like that because I saw a lot of people doing that early on too. So I was like, you know what,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna figure this out and either win on my own or fail on my own. That was kind of like my mentality um, for it. So I remember another part of it was my wife, then girlfriend. She had quit her job at this right around the same time I did, and so I quit the dealership, and then I had like a month or two of remodel before my shop opened. So I had like a 2 month where I wasn't really doing anything. Like I didn't know what my life looked like then. And I made, and so she quit. She's like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to school. And I'm one of those. If you're not happy what you're doing, just kill it and do something else. Try something else. Like just go full force in it. We'll figure about everything else later. And so that's what she was still trying to figure out what she wanted to do. She was unhappy with the job she was working. And so I was like, you know what? I'm Superman. Like, just quit your job. You go to school. So she go to cosmetology school. I'm like, okay, well, how am I gonna pay for this? Neither one of us have income coming in. Now we have bills. She moved in. We're living together at this point to consolidate our bills. And I'm like, I'm gonna. How do we pay for school? So, and I've always had good credit, kind of on that. I've always been
Right.
very responsible with money. And so when I started my shop, I was like, okay, I got X amount of money that I'd saved up for operating costs or whatever. And it was completely wrong. But then I was like, we can live, if we don't change our lifestyle, we can live for like 10 months just off my savings. Okay. Not including the $50,000 credit card line of credit we had, personal credit. So I'm like, okay, if we just, that's not changing, that's not cutting out anything. That's just, hey, let's continue to live our life. Let's going out to eat. Let's do it. And, I like to party back then. I was 22, just what
Yeah.
22 year
I
olds
guess you
do,
would.
kind of on that. I was making, 140, 150,000, all the friends. I was paying for everything, I was,
You're fat and
living,
happy.
yeah, I was living
Yeah,
life,
man. Yeah.
kind of those things. So I said, we'll do that. And then I'm like, okay, how are we gonna pay for school? And I remember like, you know what, let's just call your parents, see if they'll co-sign with you. Cause I didn't want to co-sign on it because I knew I was going to be taking out business credit and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
See if they'll co-sign on a student loan. I'll pay it, whatever. And I remember her dad is like, he said no. He said no. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, neither one of y'all have jobs. And I remember just being so like hurt and mad, but then thinking like, geez, that's like the most smart, like he's right, like like it really is. And so for family to say that, to do the hard things and make the hard choices and saying, you know what, I support you guys, but I don't want this to be an issue if this can't get repaid, kind of thing. It was at a sense of like practicality. He's a black or white kind of guy. And, I have a lot of gray. My wife's the same way. It's like, so very risk adverse. And, and that kind of like drove me. So I did two things. And one, it taught me, okay, hey, he's very responsible. He sees that. And I can't take this personal. Like this is business at the end of the day. This is, and the other side of it is like, I'll show you. Kind of thing. Like with it, it gave me the drive. It gave me the drive to, make sure this succeeds, kind of deal. And we weren't even married at the time yet. So,
some tough love, man.
Yeah, tough love. And and I respect him so much for that, because it was like, it taught me a lot that I didn't know it was teaching. And it was kind of that process. My father died of a massive heart attack when he was 39.
Oh, my. Wow.
I was 15. Yeah. He was a police officer. And so all these things, my dad was very risk adverse. He was kind of, I would not be where I'm at today if he was still alive, and not in a bad way. It's just that my path would have been different. It would have been a little bit more conservative, because that's what he was taught. And, he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to have a lifestyle of struggle and poverty and stuff like that he grew up. Obviously we want better for our kids, but sometimes it's being exposed. So, so that's where the serving. I wanted to be a police officer. My dad was like, made me promise him that I wouldn't get into law enforcement. Ultimately, he died of a stress-related heart attack of the job, kind of deal. So it all started to tie together. It's like, okay, so how do I serve? How can I give that servant heart of leadership like he did in a thing? And that's where it was, the service advisor, the communications, the relationships of selling, fixing people's problems. That's kind of how I tied it into. And I really enjoyed that, people's worst day in the car. Like no one wants to get their car fixed. Like it just.
That's pretty amazing. You took that experience of losing your father and how you said it pretty clearly. How do I find that servant's heart? And you found it through serving others in the capacity with your experience and helping them with their vehicle and keeping them on the road reliable and satisfying what they need the vehicle for. So that's a great way to take that energy out of one area and put it towards good use. So good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just that, and like I said, and that was the thing, like first responder kind of thing, police officer like that, like it was great. I think it's so passionate. I love it. Fascinated with it. Even, our military and stuff like that. I have so much respect to them because I could never do that. Like the pay, like I saw what my dad made and stuff like that. They're underpaid and stuff like that. Like, to be a first like that, like, I wanted to make money. I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want that ever to be an issue. I didn't want stress. I saw, my parents stress about money all the time. I was like, that was like my main focus is never stress about money, no matter what it was. And so I took that on. That was another thing. So we did close on loans, still got student loans, and then put the rest on a credit card. Wife went through school, I still started with shop, and, 2019 was, it was a rough year. It was hard. It was taking that step back. Looking back now, it was the step back. I was willing to take a step back financially, just everything to leap forward. And I think that's a lot of people, I see a lot of people struggle. And I have this conversation with my staff. It's like, if they want that level, if they want to move up into leadership, or if they want that next big payday, so we say, or big pay raise and stuff, it's like, what are you willing to do that you don't get paid for right now? And be able to, the next income, are you able to take a step back, whether it's in time, giving up something? You have to give up something to get to the next level.
Right. You do.
And it's like, if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to succeed in it. You can't have your cake and eat it sometimes too.
Flat. Right.
Correct.
You can't stay flat. Now, one of the things that's interesting is during all of what you just explained to everybody in the audience and all, but, you had a rough time with the contract on this location, right? On your original one where you had a partner, a quote unquote partner bail?
Yeah, so it was when I started talking about it, another close buddy of mine that worked at the dealership, who's a technician, he had been there. He started at that dealership when he was like 20 years old. And so he always made good money. He had apartments, so he had money. He had assets, he had money, credit, he was established. He was and he was he was a hustler too, a go-getter. And we were talking like, dude, all right, you can be the technician, I'll be the service advisor. Let's just go partners on this deal. All of this. I thought I needed him for the money aspect of it because I didn't want to drain all my savings, kind of a thing. I was like, how am I gonna live, because I didn't have that much money saved up. And so we talked about everything like that, and then I started finding. Then I found the building, and he was still on board, and I think that was, and we didn't have details ironed out or anything like that, but essentially I was gonna put up 60 grand, he was gonna put up 60 grand. Now we're gonna have 120 grand, and we were gonna be, that should get us going, kind of deal. Um, and
Sounds like
so,
a true 50-50.
yeah, true 50-50
Okay.
was what we
Okay.
kind of had to be. But then we're like trying to figure out like, okay, well, if he's working on the cars, how is he gonna get paid? Like it was just. But then another technician was one of the top technicians there. This guy, you could tell he was just getting burned out by it, and that guy's still with me today. So when that guy bailed, I was like, I need a technician. I can't work on cars. Um, so I
Well,
got
why do
him.
you think he bailed? What was the reason why he bailed? Just not comfortable with it, or just wasn't ready to commit, or
Just wasn't ready to
yeah,
commit. Like it was just it
okay,
was it was too real. Like it was just
yeah,
like he had looking back, he had a family and kids and stuff like that, and he had a
mm-hmm.
very cushion lifestyle kind of on that. He'd been there 10 years, so he had 3 weeks vacation. Kind of got to do whatever he wanted,
Right.
kind of deal. So he had rental properties, so he had cash flow. So
So
I
he was
think,
comfortable,
oh yeah, very
and
comfortable.
wouldn't have worked out with you anyway because
Oh no,
I think we've all experienced people who are comfortable, and like you just said, you can't stay flat. It sounded like he was willing to stay flat.
right, and that was a huge thing, and I think like I said, it was a God thing on that because like that
Yeah,
would
yeah,
it would have derailed everything where we would have
yep.
been at today. Um, it'd have been a nightmare. It'd have been that true, getting a partnership and it falls like all the other stories, kind of it. So yeah, so that kind of works out. That kind of worked out. It was kind of thing. Okay, I'm still going to do it, and that was the thing. It's like I'm going to do this because I like the control. It's like I'm still going to do this with or without you. You're a benefit, you're a plus if you do come on. If not, I'll still figure it out. So I had some contingencies, some plan Bs in case of that. Going back to the customers, I was telling one, him and I weren't even that close. I'd only been working him for, probably less than a year. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own shop down the street. All this, that's what we're gonna do. He's like, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, just let me know the address to get open. He's like, and let me know if you need any money, any seed money to start up. And I was like, oh wow, like I was blown away, like it was that easy. And I was like, but I didn't. And so I kept that in my back pocket. I was like, okay, that's cool. And as time progressed, well, so I got the lease. Yes, called around, found this building. Didn't even use a broker. Didn't know how that stuff worked really. And yeah, the guy said, 10,500. Oh, I remember they wanted uh proof of income. They thought I was an operator already, a business and
Right.
stuff. So I sent over my personal tax returns because I thought they asked for tax returns, um, and pay stubs, and they're like, no, we need the business. I'm like, there's no business.
It's the business.
Yeah. And I
uh,
remember the broker's like, oh man, like we need triple security deposit. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, that's not gonna happen. So like here, best case scenario, this thing's been on the market, whatever. Like, I'll give you your $10,000 security deposit, first month rent. And they're like, well, I'm doing a 2-year lease. I'm like, okay, well, that's short enough to, if I fail 2 years, at least I can get out of the lease. I probably at least make it 2 years. It was in my head,
Right.
kind of deal. Uh, so yeah, so we got that, figuring out CO, certificate of occupancy, and then doing this, and then I started doing remodel, and I'm like, spending all this money, kind of doing all these things. And I'm like, people are telling me advice like, oh, don't do it this or it's small. I'm like, no, like if I'm doing it, I'm going all in. So I wanted.
So you get to the point where number one is up and running, and now you have the opportunity for number two, or your reasons for number two weren't really revenue generator. I mean, it wasn't extra revenue. It was actually for the people you had, and you wanted to give them the ability to climb as well as you did.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so that was the thing with one, once we got it figured out and taken, and it was 2019, 2020 COVID hit. That sucked. That that was awful, but we made it through that. Um, and I don't have high turnover employee wise, kind of a thing. We run super efficient, we run super lean at that store. Um, Store one will do, 4.2, 4.3 million this year with 5 technicians and a 2-person front. Like it's just run super lean. Well,
That's great.
I wanted to be strength in numbers. I wanted stability. I knew I wanted to do more, and that was the thing. Was okay. Instead of just cramming people in there to kind of have the bodies, but I wanted to have the opportunity to then build and develop and give to the younger guys that I had to fight and do everything and risk, almost potentially risk it all to get where I'm at. And so that was kind of the whole thing for the other vision. um yes, it was revenue profit generating, and it was just kind of like the game of, okay, like how can I do this and can I keep me in this? I did this one really good, but can I continue to do it, and can I do it at a scale of what my why is, the values and the things of it is. And so yeah, and it was a fresh start to being able to have a clean slate of, now I know what I'm doing and implement the process systems and everything from day one versus trying to teach
Hmm.
old dog new tricks, kind of a
There you
thing.
go.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of my
Yeah.
staff has been there 3, 4, 5 years, where I start making all these changes. I join coaching. I start learning how things should be, for my leadership, that's the biggest pivotal thing. I think anyone else, you can be the greatest business person, but if everyone just has personal development and leadership, they can do anything in this world. Like that's truly, that's the pivotal, that's the chain of
It
everything.
is. Yeah. Now,
Um,
in terms of, do you feel that your coaching, you started with coaching while you had number one, or actually kind of prior, right? And then your coaching allowed you to be more confident in getting number two? Because they say number
yes.
two is the hardest one. And yeah, I mean, I know that I struggled with number two because when I thought I had everything together, I'm 85 miles apart between locations, and it's a whole different market and it's a whole different scenario. A lot of things that worked up here didn't work down there. And so I had to adjust,
Yeah.
where we couldn't keep continuity. Fortunately, the SMS and the CRM and the website and all that stuff, that's constant. That's not a problem, but it's working with the people that you have in that area. So how did you find, did you have to hire all new, or did you bring anybody over? What was your pathway to get
Yeah.
number two up and do those numbers that you're talking about? They're fantastic.
Yeah, the pathway, for was, I was really good at the Ford special. Like I knew it inside and out. We had the technicians, so we didn't need to have certain system and processes that we needed at an all makes and models store. Like we run a very high average ticket there, so we don't see a ton of cars. But so like it's just manipulating those numbers and understanding, okay, how do we truly be efficient? What can we do, and how do we make the most out of this? Because we're not trying to break that model, kind of thing. And then just kind of let it get the core foundation set there. So with coaching helped me in a thing is, one, seeing it clearer kind of on that. Two, understanding the all makes and models, because everyone's like, you only work on one make and model? Like that's crazy. There's no way. Like you're leaving so much money on the table, blah blah this. Well, that goes back to being the best at what you know and not gearing out of that thing. And that's what take, I think, what drives down a lot of the industry stuff is that shops, other places will bite off more than they can chew, and they can't give that same experience. And that was for us. Yes, we can work on, our technicians can work on anything there, and they will for certain customers and stuff like that. But we weren't. What I saw is we weren't giving the level of customer service and experience as we were to our Ford customers, because they weren't as confident in the Nissan Altima or the the things like that. it wasn't like, I couldn't say 100%, like, I know that's perfect. It's going to be 100, I couldn't. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. So how do we open it up? So now in the
Yeah.
same time of it is that, you know, I'm not giving people a chance to come in and work for this organization because, I mean, it is the culture there, that store. Like, I mean, it's just our customer. I mean, everything about it is truly remarkable, of what we built there, and the team members and things like that. It's like, okay, how do we get more people to join this and develop it, and then be the change, you know, um, for it. So the pathway to two was, I was ready to go. I thought I had success. I was like, okay, because my goal was just to, pay myself about 150K a year and make 10, actually it was break even really on the P&L. If the company paid even, I made 10, as long as I was making more than I was making at the dealership, I didn't
Right.
care. So kind of thing. So I didn't truly understand the grasp of like how much, net profit we can extract out of this and do this, and
Right.
how we can get other people to do it. So coaching, broke that down for me. And I just needed to see the numbers, the percentages, and
And then
just
you
like,
got excited.
yeah, quick roadmap. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, here's what I meant. So full force.
Right.
So that's for that. But the leadership, like I said, that was the thing. I thought I was going in there for business advice, and the leadership and all that side of it, being able to connect employees and how to hold people accountable, and the why behind that, and just in myself as a father, as a husband, and things like that, is being able to lead and understand, that aspect of it, where it helped me. Like, okay, so now I can truly pour into these people, because that was the thing. If you weren't an A player, if you weren't the best of the best, you didn't work out at my shop, because my training, I had no training process. It was like, hey, you do this, I expect you to win on day one. I'm gonna go fast. If you can't do it, like, you got to go. Like, that was how I ran it. And
Yeah.
what's
You
great if
can't.
you can continue to hire great people every time. But there was times
Yeah.
where I hired great people, but they just needed a different way of, they needed some system and process, and I ruined them. I basically, they didn't
Mm.
work out. I broke them because I didn't have that. And so that was a failure on my part. Like, this is my fault. Like, oh, that guy couldn't make it in a shop. Like, we'd look for all the excuses. Oh, he didn't turn off hours, or, he didn't do this. It's like, no, like, I didn't do that. Like, I tell
Yeah.
everyone, like,
Exactly.
that's quit me. Like, I
Yep.
tell them, or even people that I've had to let go, I'm telling them, like, hey, I was not ready for
There's something
you.
that I did wrong.
Yeah, it's something I did wrong. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times
Right.
it's us. It's us as
Mm-hmm.
owners.
True. Yes, it is.
It's
Yeah.
something in our system and things like that. And that's my fault. And so once I
Mm-hmm.
started accepting that, understanding that, everything started to really change. But I was looking at deals. I didn't understand what a great location was. I didn't understand the all makes and models, you know,
That
visibility.
model of business. Yeah.
Correct. And so
Yeah.
I was looking at, I didn't want to do another specialty, for it, just because it's harder to scale and it just takes more
Mm-hmm.
time and effort into the deal, and market share and stuff like that. So yeah, and then I've seen like all these other. I'm like, I could just be better. I just gotta be better than the next shop down the street. Like,
Right.
really is service customers. Kind of on the thing, fix itself. Um, so yeah, so that's what I could have, and I was getting, where I was like ready to move fast. And like I said, I wasn't really, we were making good money, but it was just, I was so used to being in the cycle of make money, spend it, reinvest, make money, reinvest. I never like backed up and said, I'm gonna put this aside for my family. I'm gonna, have some savings and some nest egg, kind of this. We built a house, we got married, um, kind of on the thing. Just keep adding pressure, of these things where it's like, okay, we're gonna just a little bit more time. That's what I just needed, was time. I didn't have enough time. I didn't have as much time as someone else maybe coming in their 40s getting into this business, through that, where they've had years of being able to save. Like, it was making zero money living off my mom to
Right.
here.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing too I learned was credit history. I had
Oh,
great
yeah.
credit, but I didn't have a long credit history. So
Yeah.
like
That's
banks
funny.
were
That
like,
sneaks up on you. Yeah.
oh yeah, and that kicked my butt. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, I got this much money in the bank, like this, like, and they're like,
Right.
yeah, well, we don't, like, you're a risk. I'm like, well, what am I
Yeah.
supposed
Isn't
to
it
do?
crazy? I
It's
mean, It's really tough. I mean, for a small business to go for financing of any type, whether you're refining or you're looking for a LOC or anything like that, it's like you're put through the ringer, man. I mean, gosh darn, you like 60 plus pages and documents and all that stuff. Gosh, just for any little bit. So I feel you on that one. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
I learned there was just so much stuff, like so much learning experience through it all. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I had a paid off house that I'd bought when I was at the
Mm-hmm.
dealership. My mom was renting from me. We had it paid off. I was going to take out a home equity line of credit. I screwed up, and I should have done that before I quit my job, because immediately when I quit my job, they're like, "Oh, you have no income. You don't get approved." I'm like,
No
"It's paid
income.
off.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly
you'll
right.
give me 20%. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not even asking for the 70 or 80% LTV that you guys do. Like, if I
right.
default, you guys get a house for
Yeah.
25%. What it's
Don't you
worth."
think it's so simple? It would be so logical and everybody would understand that kind of stuff. But
Dude,
no, the regulators and all that stuff,
it,
it's nuts, man. It really is.
it's so crazy. So it's all these things
Yeah.
that, I'm making, trying to figure out, and, and this is where taking advice and the broad general business advice and things like that, people from experience. And here's what I battled the most with. Um, I call it the old way of business and then the new way of business. And a lot of the older guys, the mentors and other entrepreneurs and stuff that I was, going and seeking advice from, they they were telling you stuff based off what worked for them, but they weren't stopping to understand that situation. Because we look at business as business across every industry, but I needed hyper focus on my industry because some of the stuff didn't correlate to what we were doing,
Yeah.
and that's like, I mean, like the biggest thing was breaking out, putting tech costs and parts costs, into the GP side of it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, not just having cogs and then having your
Right.
wages on, on the expense side. So like that was a huge point, because I was like, oh man, this makes sense. I can actually have my margins and stuff. I can set this off like variable and stuff like that. So there was just a lot of things um, that when I got into coaching, like, okay, this hyper focus, this is what I needed. They saved me a lot of pitfalls of like just deals that I was going to do, you know, like I said, risky, because like I said, I was about taking risks. I'm like, I don't got a lot to lose. I mean, I'm still so young, I can rebuild. That was always my mentality. I don't care. I'm used to working a lot of hours. I got
Yeah.
time, like, all these things.
You got that
Uh,
Superman cape going on, man.
yeah, just like
You can do anything.
yeah, like, I mean, what's another year or two of suck, like it's already been this hard. Like, we'll just keep it going, kind of deal. So that was kind of like that. But then it taught me, being around other people, and, the mentorship was like, it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to choose the hard way. And I like choosing the hard way just because that's just the stubbornness of me. That's
Yeah.
the enterpriser and the culture index of me is like, um, and for it. So yeah, so that's where, and to two was, everyone told me just open up your first store to all makes and models. I'm like, I don't want to break it. Like, it is making a lot of money. Like, it has a system and processes. Like, I don't want to break it. Like, I won't open another
Yeah. Why
store if
would
that's
you?
the case. Yeah.
Right.
Why would I? So my second store is like an eighth of a mile away from the first store. It's just on
Okay.
the main drag. So my first
Mm-hmm.
store is tucked back off a side road. This one's on the main drag. It's got 40,000 cars per day pass by it. The building was set empty
Nice.
for a little while.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things like, okay, let's just go in, let's go full speed, do a nice remodel, hire it
Mm-hmm.
out. Um,
It looks beautiful. Looks
it, it,
gorgeous, man. It really does.
it came out great. And so, yeah, hired
Yeah.
all new staff. And that was the hard part too. So that was another turning point. And it was good for challenging. I knew it was going to be that way, was, just adding the system and processes, how we're answering the phone, how we're quoting these tickets, not just used to just customers coming in and saying yes to everything, all the repairs that we do at the first store. Like, they were choosing to come to us there. We didn't have to convince them. Here, at the All Makes and Models, our regular general store, like, they have so much competition. Like, we have to convince these customers. Like, we have to,
Yeah.
do all the things and make it say, hey, choose us. This is why you choose us. Give us a shot, and, let us show you. But, there's just a lot, and that's what I had to learn. It was a big thing, and then training the staff. Got an all young staff with it, and so
Nice.
that's been super
Yeah.
fun though, is because it's like, hey, like, follow these steps. Like, trust me, I'll get you there. That's been like my mission now, is like,
Right.
just 3 or 4 years ago, I was where you're at,
Hmm.
kind of a deal. Like you can change your lifestyle, you can change these things, you can get that opportunity to do. Like we have an advisor, he was 18 when he started, he just turned 19 now, young guy, fresh out of high school. You know, just
Almost like you were.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there you
exactly.
go.
And so that and so he's been great. He's a sponge. He asks the questions. He makes the mistakes. Sometimes you just like you have to forget. You're like, oh man, you know, I forget you're only 18, 19. Give him that grace. I've been there before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kind of deal. And so that's been really fun to
Yeah.
watch and help pour into that. And be able to do that and say, okay, how do we do this, and how do we give the opportunity? How do we knock down the barrier of entry to, a career job like this that
Right.
doesn't need the experience, or not just going to put them on you know, have them write up oil changes and that's it. Or,
Yeah.
a young tech, just put him on the lube rack and say, hey, change oil, kind of thing.
Hmm.
What's the pathway to that? Moving up and breaking that out, and giving them more opportunity to finding the fit if they want it. It's like giving them that
Hmm.
taste of it. Because a lot of people, until you taste, I don't want to say success, till you taste like a level of responsibility at a, and then the monetary side follows it, it changes you. It makes you grow up. It matures you a little bit. It has these things where it's like, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're talking about. This is why. And so I'm very transparent with all my team, what I'm doing, what I'm working on, what my vision is, what it is. Like P&Ls, they see it. They know how much profit we're making. They know if
Right.
I'm going to go buy something. It's all that for them, because I want them to dream, because that's what I want. And a lot of people, a lot of my mentors, it was so, they weren't as transparent. It's kind of
Hmm.
it's just a common, you know, American thing, is that, oh, we don't talk about that, like, profits or money
Yeah,
in the
that's
bank
true.
and all that.
Very
It's
true.
a dirty word and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I challenge people. It's like, would you be willing, to imagine, now you can do it with, humility, or you can do it with arrogance. There's one
Hmm.
thing that's easy to decipher, but you know,
Yeah.
one of my mentors, he would talk about everything, and I just, it helped me dream. Like, that's achievable, that's possible. Like, that guy's at arm's length. I get to have a conversation with that guy,
Hmm.
and he has this level of success. He has this house, and he has, this organization. His employees, work for him. Um, and so that was a huge thing for me, that I want to continue to do for other people, because
For
that's
the
where,
others.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my success came from, is being exposed to
Yeah.
that. Because I wasn't exposed to that kind of stuff when I was growing up.
No.
It wasn't until I started branching out and meeting, getting out of, this friends group, and being with this family successful, and then hearing how they're talking about just how the different the cultures and generations, um, speak things, having a nightly dinner. There's all this stuff that, ties back in, that you don't understand, that now that we're trying, my wife and I are trying to do for our kids, making sure that we have these things, we're talking about these things and stuff like that, to keep those pain points, for it. So we're not passing around these generational stuff that,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
our
really
parents
critical.
got
Yeah.
passed down.
Yeah, I can relate to that very well, because in my experience, my father's lack of, I guess, wanting to pay attention to the business, left it to our generations to kind of like clean everything up and move it forward. So,
Right.
there's a lot there to be said about that, and that's a great path. So, speaking of all of your success and the businesses, what does Andrew do outside the business? What gets you going? Your family, wife, vacation, travel, golf, swim? What do you do, man?
Yeah, so that was a big thing, for me. Was someone asked me like 3 years ago, like, Andrew, what's your hobby? And I'm like, oh shoot, it was making money
It
and and
stumped you,
and
didn't
moving
it?
fast. Yeah, it did. It was like,
Yeah.
kind of like, because kind of one of those things is, I I joke all the time that I'm a natural lazy person. Like,
Uh huh.
if
Come
I
on,
could literally,
seriously?
if I could literally do nothing all day, I would. I thought
I
I
don't
was
believe
that
that.
way.
I don't believe it.
I thought I was that way until my wife's like, "Well, you pace around the house every time you're home. Like, you can't, like." And I'm like, "That's true. Like, I do get bored super easy. It's the ADHD. It's just that drive to, like, wanting to be more." So,
Yeah.
so yeah. So my hobby now, it's a big thing. The why on that is, I have two kids. I got a
Great.
3-year-old son,
Mm-hmm.
1-year-old daughter, um, which, they're super fun. I try to spend as much time with them, my wife and I. So like my family is the why behind it, kind of these things. And it's being able to, everyone told me like, Andrew, you'll never be able to scale and do all these things with the young family. You're gonna have to sacrifice one or the other, to get where you're going. And
Oh no.
money is a scoreboard for me. That's just the challenge of like that. But it's like really it's just the ability to control the decisions and the options, and that's what I truly
Mm-hmm.
want. Is I don't like that feeling as not having options. And the only way, the top way to have options is by making a good income. And then within that is, if I'm making good money, then obviously my staff's making good money. So then they have options, or then I limit their options, kind of a thing too. Was, if I provide a great experience, if I provide a great workplace and they make good money, well then there's only one option, that's us. So we
Mm-hmm.
keep them happy. So it's this reverse thing. Is like, I want options. I don't want my staff to have options, not holding them hostage, but I want them to think that way. Is okay, how do they have options, or they level themselves up to create options. I don't want them to feel hostage to working here, but if they don't want to go out and do the to the next level, then either or they go out and start another business, or they go, for those things. So
Right.
um but yeah, so my hobby, I try to play as much golf as I can. That was something I took
There
up a
you
couple
go.
years
You're
ago.
talking my language now,
Yeah,
man.
so the golf course kind of on that, but it's kind of it's a time consuming thing. And
It is, but
that
it's relaxing too. I
it
mean,
is, it
in a good
really
way.
is. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hardest part is, I like to golf during the week. Most
Yeah.
of my friends at my age, that are in their 30s are working regular jobs. So
Yeah.
they can't take off during the day to go golf.
Sucks to
Um,
be them, huh?
and exactly, and they don't have kids. Most of them don't have kids
Yeah.
either. So they want to golf on the weekends. I'm like, weekends is my family time. That's kind of a big thing. Is trying to absorb as much time and being intentional with what I do is in and out. So is work as much as I can. I'll put in crazy hours, for a week or
Mm-hmm.
two, and then I won't do anything for a week or two. So just try to have. I don't believe in the work life balance. I think it's just
Well,
how to commingle
it's
them.
work to live.
Yeah, just kind of those things. Is how do we do
Yeah.
both? And there's just the time of seasons and understanding what
Mm-hmm.
season you're in. And I get sucked into certain seasons. I'm a procrastinator. I like stress and chaos, so I wait till last minute for everything. Which I put a lot more pressure and stress on myself for that, and I'm working through that. but yeah, so
We all are.
it's just like
Believe me.
I like it all at once, like
Uh,
the chaosness. It's like, okay, let's stack it all up. It's going to suck, a timeline of suck for right now. And then let's live
sure.
freely. And then I have some free months and stuff. I moved 5 hours away from my stores. Um,
Really? Okay.
yeah. So we got out of the Metroplex and we moved to West Texas, kind of a little
Mm-hmm.
slower pace of life. And um, we've really enjoyed that. That's been real nice. It's allowed me to get a little bit more organized and be more intentional. Um, when I am home, like I'm at home, like it feels like I'm on vacation all the time now, because I spend more time at home for
Right.
it, because I just be able to check. When I lived closer to my stores,
Mm-hmm.
although I'm not in the day-to-day operations, I'm not a work from my laptop guy at home kind of guy. To me, it's like it's prison. I can't focus. Like if I hear the kids doing something, I'm like, you know what, I don't need to do this right now. Like, kind of thing. So
True.
I would go into my stores, or I'd go into my office at one of my stores, and I get stuff done there. And then same thing, I kind of just be distracted by my employees. So then I got to start talking to
Yeah.
them. I'm like, well, now a lot of times I had to like take a look at my manager's face, because he'd be like, all right, dude, it's time to go. I'm like, all right, sorry, I forgot you guys are working. So just trying to do that, and figuring out, like, what that cadence is of the time, and being
Yeah.
able to have that ability to still being effective and intentional for it.
Yeah.
Because although I used to not be very routine oriented, now I've found myself like I have to be a little bit more structured with it, because then I just go
Mm-hmm.
on this side scrolls. I'll be doing other stuff that I don't need to be doing and doing the stuff I need to is not getting done. Kind of
Hmm.
deal. So
Well,
trying to surround myself with people that, hey, Andrew, do this, let's do that, kind of delegation of they're delegating stuff
yeah,
to me that I need to get done for them.
right.
But yeah, so we're trying to figure that out. But yeah, so it's just,
That's tough. That's tough. I'll tell you, it doesn't stop. And I'm 66, and I still go through the same battles. I walk into in the shop, and I got my son on one end, and down in Millsboro, my son-in-law's here, and I'll walk in, and I'll hang out, chit chat, maybe meet some old clients that I haven't seen in a while, and all of a sudden you get that feel like, okay, you don't really want to be here now, right? We got this, we're okay,
yeah,
and you got to,
yeah.
okay, well, I'll go play golf now.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
So
thing. Is like you want to feel a
yeah,
little bit relevant and kind of the things, and you don't want
yeah,
to, don't want to micromanage some things. And I've kind of had, and I built the culture like my staff is like I used to kind of just like wait, not say anything, and I'm just like, okay, well that's not
yeah.
really efficient. So now I'm kind of like they know, and I told them like you have to, especially if I bring on a new employees, like you have to get to know me
Hmm.
and see how I operate. Like with the when to hold, I'm very very relaxed in a lot of things, probably more than most operator business owners because I don't hold on to bad like problems or stress or catastrophic things. Like I let go of things real quick. Like, all right, this sucked. Get mad.
Fail fast,
Yeah, 20,
and
30
you move
minutes
on.
and I'm over it. Oh, that was a
Yeah.
dumb decision. We lost money here. Okay, whatever. Like I forgive and forget really easily, fast, and that's the thing. I don't hold on to it. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like I tell everyone, like it's going back to it tomorrow. Like if you're not happy doing something, if you're miserable, you're stressed. How do we remove that? You know, what's
It's
causing
true.
your stress today? Okay,
Yeah.
what can you do to
Go down the list
yeah, just go down the
and
list
get
and
rid of
just
it.
let it go. Yeah, don't let it go. Don't
Yeah.
hang on to it. The
Hmm.
grudges, whatever. That guy did you wrong, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. You're struggling financially. Okay, let's make a plan. How do I fix that?
Right.
Come to me. How do we fix everything? Most stuff is fixable, and anything within these walls, these buildings, I can help. I can fix. I can pretty much, kind of on that. Anything outside of that, maybe a little harder and kind of give you some guidance. But let's just move forward. And a lot of times, my staff will be stressed out, and it's just things of like this very minute stuff. And it's easy to say, oh yeah, you got other problems, stuff like that. Our problems are just bigger. The more money we make, our problems are just bigger, and we just have to solve them
Yeah.
faster.
No money, no problems.
Yeah, and so of that, but that's a level of responsibility that we've been
Yeah,
given.
it is.
We've been given
Hmm.
a scale and things like that. So the pressure of employees and all that stuff, like and their families, I don't. It pressures me to be better, and that's where I started feeling. It's like I got to be better. How do I get better?
You got to be better, right? Yeah.
How do I
It takes a
continue,
lot. So,
how do I continue to go to these events? How do I continue to pour into, how do I reach out in personal development, not just inside the
hmm,
industry, but outside the industry? What am I doing in my
right.
community? Am I, keeping my spiritual life, am I following in the word, in my Bible? Am I doing those hard things? Kind of with it. And then am I leading at home?
Hmm.
I notice, and obviously they go hand in hand. If your home life sucks, your business is going to suck,
Hmm.
kind of things.
Certainly
If you're
is.
stressed at home, you're going to be stressed in the business. And so,
Yeah.
it's just trying to mingle those things, the two, where, they are blended together, but one doesn't hurt the
Well,
other.
no, no. And you, from just talking to you, and we met at Tectonic. Will you be at the Auto Service Leaders Conference in Dallas? It's right in
Yes.
your neck of the woods. Yes. Good. We'll have to see each other there. I can't wait for that as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Um,
good one.
it's going to be a great one. There's going to be a lot of good speakers, good people there. I can't wait to meet up everybody. I know Bryce and the team put on a heck of an event, in their past lives as well.
Yeah.
But you have a very centered type of person, demeanor. Even though you might be a procrastinator and all that stuff, that's on the outside.
Yeah.
Inside, your core sounds and from what I hear is really intact. So, congratulations on your success. What do you think holds the future for Andrew and the family and everybody?
Well, we have some. I have some crazy, audacious stuff um, that goes through my head every day, and I sometimes wonder. And it was kind of fun. It's one of those things. Is that you? I think a lot of people, they what their why. They start with their why, but they don't ever stop back to go back and say, okay, what's my why now? What's this changed? And the constant evolution of everything. You're looking on a year to year. Like I live in the future. That's just my personality. Is like, what's the next thing? And the measure, I ask myself, is this, is this aligned with my beliefs? And is this what God's telling me to do, or is this what I'm telling myself to do? Is this best for my family? And ultimately, what's the big win from it? Like, what's the gain from it? How much effort is taken? What's the gain? And not necessarily so much now on the money aspect of it, but what can this change and influence that's going to be, so I have to use that thing to keep myself grounded, on a lot of things, and not get too careless and stuff like that with either it's growth or whatever it may be. I still like to be kind of simple on that aspect, but I got some big stuff planned.
Good.
Working
Good.
through. We have a
Yeah.
we have a third location that we're fixing to go under contract on.
Nice. Very
So
nice.
continue to scale at the pace of
When you're able to, when it makes sense, and like you said, when the timing when the timing makes sense, that you do it. When you've got your pieces together, you're not going to force anything. You don't have to now, but if the opportunity is there, and it doesn't seem like, I want to say this respectfully, but the more successful you become, it seems like the deals come easier. Like you can approach them in a whole different manner, and you can take advantage of things like that. So,
Oh yeah, and it's just being able to, like, so yeah, you're exactly right with that. Is that you can look at something that as you mature and stuff, and you get different experiences, that you may look at a deal 2 years ago and you're like, oh, that's too expensive. That's you find all the negative things of it on that, for it. But then you look on the other side, once you get, so now I can look at a deal and it's like, oh yeah, I can definitely overpay for this, but this is, and then structure a deal, or see an opportunity, and it's like, okay, does it check the boxes? How long is this gonna take away my time? Is it gonna be, if
yeah.
it's a disaster, how much money can I set on fire? And that's the kind of thing. That's what I like to gamble with. The thing is, I like to
Right.
gamble with the money on the aspect of, when I say gamble, is that, to me, I'm not going to be emotionally tied. If I do a deal and I lose $500,000 cash, is it going to put me, how far is it going to set me back? Or if it's even going to set me back at all? Can I play
Right.
on borrowed time, where if I had to not be involved, do anything, and let it stand on its own, to, let's say I had to do something with my family, or I just can't be involved, or
Mm-hmm.
one of the other things, can I do that? And that's how I measure it all. Like, it's not an emotional thing for me. It's like, okay, well then, if I lost 500, but if I gain 500 on the $500, like, okay, great. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
then that's the win. So I don't, I think a lot of people on that, they try to make the deal work, or they try to scale,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, okay, well, it's doing this and that. Like, I look at it is, what's the worst possible thing that can happen? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not that bad, then for me, it's gonna do it.
And
If the
go for it.
upside's there,
Yeah.
kind of the
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
I my
Um,
second store, we went through some things, and uh, I when I moved, I hadn't been here as much as I wanted for training and things like that, and I could have done
mm-hmm.
emotionally reacted and did a bunch of stuff, hired different people, created all this chaos. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put in my head that it's gonna lose money for this long, for 3 months, until I can get back
Yeah.
and fix it. And it
Right.
didn't. The staff figured it out, and kind of on that, but it wasn't like I didn't make emotional decisions on that. And I think a lot of people, and I still do it sometimes. I'll make an emotional decision, and I'm like, wait, Andrew, that's not what got you here. And the thing of the taking the risk in advance, I try to be super conservative. Um, when I started the second store, and like the first 4 months were miserable, because like I was trying to keep overhead low. I was trying to do this, trying to budget there. And I was like, you know what? I'm going back to what I knew before. It was, just risk it, invest in it, and try to get the return. And that's when we
Mm.
started, making making strides and for a lot of
Right.
things. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I want to continue to
Oh,
open stores as long as I have the capacity and the team,
mm-hmm.
for it. That's the biggest thing, is, okay, what can I bring? Can I truly just bring, or is it just gonna be a store and a number? I don't want to do
Right.
that. I want to be able to bring value to, obviously the community it's in, but also to what kind of staffing and things like that. If it's in a demographics, or in a city that I don't, that I don't really love, then why do I want to be there? I don't want to
Why
be
do I
there
do it?
just, yeah,
Right.
for that.
Right.
Just do a deal just to do a deal. Can I have the same level customer service? Can I still have the level of talent there? That's a big thing. Do I want to send my leadership team? Do they want to drive that forward to it?
Right.
Like those are all the things that I've taken consideration with it.
Well, yeah, you got to do. You're constantly doing a SWOT for yourself, for your business, for everything. And even personally. So, but hey, we're wrapping up on time here, Andrew. Amazing, absolutely amazing. You have given a lot of great advice. I don't care how old you are, anybody listening, any age, you listen to Andrew, and not only what you've been through to get to the point of where you're at now, but you've got great lessons that you have taken in. You have been executing wonderfully. So there's a lot of lessons that you shared in this episode, and I really appreciate it. Coming from somebody who's been in it for quite some time, listening to you, you've got success written all over you. I mean, there's no question about it. I give you props a million times over, man. It really is great. So I'm glad we got the time to talk. You being on the cover for Auto Service Leaders is just something that is well deserved, and your story resonates with a lot. So I'm glad to be able to talk to you, get to know you. Can't wait to really see you down there in Dallas in September. It's September 19th or 17th to the 19th for the Auto Service Leaders Conference. And congratulations, man. Really congratulations on everything. So thank you very much for the time.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me, Greg. And thanks for what you're doing for the industry. I know it's tough out there, in the social media world and stuff like this, but I think this is great. It's what we need. We need more of it. Bryce, Auto Service Leaders, done great, honored to be on the cover. That's truly a pivotal thing. And I believe that there's so much more. And I think a lot of us just have to continue to step up and truly do it, from the heart, the servant heart leadership. Why are we doing this?
We do.
It's not from my gain. I know where I stand. I know where I believe. And, for this is just to get to that next person to truly say, hey, there is a way in this. There's a different way. And as a whole, we can change this industry, but it's just, how do we improve it? How do we just take those steps to improve?
I think it's going to take a lot of conversation and a lot of us opening doors to each other and understanding. You make a point. Now, we share our P&L, we share our numbers, we share everything. Well, why don't we do the same with our teams on the industry with everybody else? My mission is to present an avenue where we have good conversations, we learn about one another, we talk about the industry in a positive manner, not negative, because it is something positive. It's a heck of a career for people. You've proven that your success, how you started, it's an entrepreneurial dream. Most everybody, I don't care what trade you're in or what small business you're in, you can take your story and run that through anybody's list of successful stories. Local man does good. Local boy does good. Whatever you want to call it. And we need to hear more of that. We need to do better. And I think we can. I mean, it's like you said, what do we got to lose, right?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing is set aside, putting the egos down, and just understand it's like, hey,
putting egos down.
We all have this, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a business owner. It's a privilege to be able to have that. And that's like, for me, is like, how's this representing? This is my calling. This is, I've stepped in. I've been given this opportunity. I'm not this great on my own. It's, and none of us are. And so it's just of that. It is a privilege. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what kind of pushes me more.
And we should. Yep. It's a gift that we're given, and we need to be better stewards.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Right, and that's where we learn from one another. So I tell you what, this conversation can go on for another show. We'll get back together. So.
Yeah, well, let me know. We'll definitely do it again. But
do.
Greg,
hey, man,
thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Andrew. So we'll hook up again, no doubt. So
great. We'll see you in a couple months.